quick introduction to Mike Hill from Active Insight and myself, Dave Monkhouse. We're going to be talking to you today about the Customer Experience Survey, which closed around September of this year, and we've just launched the 5th edition, Mike. I can't believe it's 5 editions already.
I know, amazing. It's still exciting every time it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got some really good numbers, haven't we? So we're going to go through the presentation. So next slide, Mr. Whitty. Here we go.
I mean, today is a very quick snapshot, Dave. As you know, I'll confirm the date and time of the webinar that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, let's move on and just give you an overview on the next slide of the numbers who completed the survey.
There you go.
So the good news is that we're 10% up on last year. So even more total respondents, just 43,600. Remember, this is just England, and it's purely physical facilities, leisure centres, sports centres who sit on the Moving Community platform. But look at that number of local authorities, English local authorities, 158 took part, 42 operators. All but one of the largest 6 operators contributed, and the one that actually didn't contribute, we're just talking about importing their data separately. So we'll end up with a total sample of 90,000 when we add in their responses. That's covering over 500 sites across England.
Yeah.
So great sample to work with.
No, absolutely. And that's a really huge sample, isn't it? When you start to benchmark your individual data against that, you can take some real insight from that. That's fantastic.
So yeah, I just wanted to share with you today half a dozen key messages. So for example, let's look at the satisfaction levels and Net Promoter Score. So I guess the general thing, overall satisfaction remains constant and still relatively high. You'll see the 2 percentages there, 46% we're saying very, 34 quite satisfied. So as usual, we add those together to get 80% positivity rating of satisfaction. And the older age groups is still generally more satisfied than the younger ones. The only exception to that, interesting, is that very young age group, the 16 to 24-year-old age group. The big news, the single takeaway I'd like people to remember, is that overall NPS for the sector has increased since last year. It's now at 28, up from 22, but it's still down from where it was in 2021 at 35. So a significant increase of 6 points, but still 7 points below where we were, 3 or 4 years ago. And we're still seeing big differences between males and females in terms of that NPS. The females are scoring higher, older age groups are scoring higher as well. And at the webinar, we've even done some cross-tabbing with people who have got long-term physical and mental health conditions now. So going to be some really interesting takeaways about the NPS from those particular groups.
Okay, and then again, the importance that customers put on staff being helpful is always so satisfying when we know the value of our workforce and those people that are competent to do what they do. So there's some quite interesting feedback there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I love these 2 sets of questions. They are how important is something and how well are we delivering it? And I love just using that gap indicator as a key matrix, really, of where we need to focus our attention in terms of CX. Yeah. So as you say, staff being helpful and friendly, always been a strength of the industry. It's the most satisfactory element. It's one of the most important elements as well. But on the downside, we still have this largest gap, which we've had every year that we've asked this question, between the importance and the satisfaction experience within cleanliness. And that is really stuck where it is for the last few years. We saw, you'll probably remember past discussions, that the satisfaction with cleanliness increased during COVID and post-COVID, for obvious reasons. Less people using it, more focus on cleanliness, more control about how people use areas like changing rooms. But we still have this massive 24% gap between how important cleanliness to customers and how well it's being delivered.
Absolutely. So there's a real simple, straightforward action straight at the start of there of things that we can do to make a difference to our satisfaction. So we also looked at environmental sustainability, and of course this is very much a hot topic at the moment with decarbonisation, etc. So what did we find out here?
Yeah, this is a completely new tranche of questions. We asked 3 questions. We've got the highlights here. But we've also got some really interesting differences in gender and age again, which we'll pick out in that webinar I keep talking about. So number one, 33% consider environmental sustainability to be quite important. 31% felt it was either neither important or unimportant. So only about a third of people are really seeing this as an important issue at the moment, and it's much more important to females than males. In order of supporting environmental sustainability, again, about a third of total responses indicated that they would opt for the number one thing that they would opt for would be activities close to home to minimise travel when selecting sports and physical activity. So this is the most popular way that people want to support this aim, or think that we should be supporting this aim of environmental sustainability. So, you know, having that local, having somewhere where they can do their physical activity within 5 to 10 minutes walk, or, you know, 5-10 minutes drive or bike, is absolutely crucial in people's perception of trying to improve their own environmental sustainability. And then finally, you know, almost a third agreed that the leisure centre, only a third agreed that the leisure centres were currently doing enough to adapt their physical activity options to be more environmental sustainability. So there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be really interesting to see how the physical works that we're starting to see now as a result of this Swimming Pool Relief Fund, and also the Salex funding, when people start seeing pool covers and solar panels and that type of thing happening at their sites. So, and you managed to get a couple of quotes off a few people. So, yeah, I think people can read those, but it's really positive that people are seeing this increase and the positivity of running through their businesses, which is absolutely fantastic. You mentioned a webinar, Mike. We'll put a link to the to Sarah, who's booking these spaces on the webinar. We'll put the dates at the bottom of this piece here. But overall, what's the webinar going to talk about?
So it's a 1 hour free to attend webinar. Just need to register in advance. And we'll be talking through and presenting the whole of the national report, with some really interesting drilling down by age, gender, long-term health conditions, etc. So some really interesting stuff that's going to come out of that day. 26th of November is the date for your direct 2 p.m. And if people want to register, they just need to email Sarah Forster at that email address.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mike. Look forward to that webinar, and I will see you there. Take care.
Will do. Cheers, Dave.